I will start just by looking at why we have Naledi as a country. It's key that I clear some things out, more especially in such a platform for the nation. This is a company that was established by Botswana in 2023 after the termination of the previous contract, which was done by a company 70% owned from outside. I won't name the country. The slide you see was presented during its launch in 2002. This is a company that was mostly formed to take one aspect, just one aspect of what the previous contractor was doing. It does not do, if you look at the Cat9 business case, it does not do what the previous contractor was doing. So there are different elements to the model that was implemented. These different models introduced various packages that could probably be executed in the local space. So if you look at the savings at the time, I saw Gigi here. He will forgive me for mentioning some of the numbers because they were mentioned when the contract was terminated. We were looking at 3.2 billion pula in savings over a 6-year period, something that is definitely growing into double figures if you look at that value. There's an element of socio-economic development that was also mentioned. Don't misquote me on this one. This comes about, probably is the only company in the world that pays 97% of its revenue to employees. So if you look at the Cat9 business case, it was not designed to make profit. The key milestones in those 2 years since we started operation. An incredible drop in the joining unit cost. I won't mention those figures. Being in control of the training and upskilling of Botswana. In the 2 years, the numbers that I'm going to mention might seem like they are nothing, but it's quite a lot. In the 2 years that we've been in operation, we have taken 8 mining engineers from diploma to degree. They just graduated in the past week. In the 2 years that we have been in operation, when we transitioned, another key factor is Naledi did not come into the picture to replace Major. I said it's a component of labor. So another key factor that is there is the employees sat under Botswana for 2 years while we were looking at a solution until after 2 years when the contract was terminated, we got to Naledi. So in those 2 years when the employees transitioned from Botswana to Naledi, if you look at our employees, it was 9% women. Mark and Naimba, I'm happy to announce we are currently standing at 17% within a 2-year period. If you look at the programs that we did, we went back to the TVET solution, the maintenance operative that have been working in this country for ages. We have now started doing a program where we upgrade them to artisans. And the first cohort probably went back to the operations in the past week. So that's intentional upskilling. So with that out of the way, where is this company going? Because of time, I'll try to skip some slides and get to the high impact conversations that probably you need to understand from our point. We are a mining services company. We need to look at a strategy, look at the data, because we know a strategy without data or numbers is just poetry. If you look at the mining services value in this country, it's currently standing at 4.3 billion pula from last year. And if you start looking at this at a regional and continental level, we are looking at over 800 billion of market value. And this is something that we as Botswana have not really been playing a lot in terms of this field, which is why a company like Naledi was formed in the first place, because the intention was to give it to a local, but there was no ready now local at the time. That's why it went to tender twice. So some of the key areas that we are looking at in terms of mining services are asset lifecycle management. Take the case of Botswana. You are looking at plants that are aging. If you look at probably some of the plants like Jwaneng, they started operating in the early 80s. And we need solutions to make sure that we keep them optimal and efficient, which is where the Naledi strategy is going to come in. And then if you look at mining services in the country, we are still way behind when we talk to the engineering aspect. Engineering, I don't mean labor. Engineering, I don't mean standing over the border as a supplies champion or entrepreneur, getting something from somewhere else, and most likely just inflating the price for standing over the border. That is getting expensive for your operations as a country. We are looking at plant optimization. We are a nation that is good in the production aspect of things. We are a nation that needs to look at value chains. You had a lot of the conversations were about beneficiation, which is good because it will get us a lot in terms of funding, but there is a value chain in the upstream, and I'll get to that in the next slide. So this is the Naledi strategy where we have identified 6 growth areas. I won't go into too much detail of what we want to do, but I'll give you a few examples. To get to more detail, I'll have to make sure the whole room signs an NDA, which I think looking at the time we are not gonna be able to do that. Let's look at the space of asset management. You have original part manufacturers. You have original equipment manufacturers. You have agencies. I'm not too sure there's one from Botswana. And then you have an operation. You have a component moving within this value chain, and there is no benefit for not even the operation, but the country of where this movement is happening. So it talks to inclusion within this process. How do we change things and become part of the maintenance, the rebuild, and the equipment aspect of what is currently happening? This market alone in Africa is valued at $20 billion. The second example, under asset management. I'll just give you a few examples. We have a lot of business cases that probably some of them we are not looking at implementing them. We are willing to share them with some of the partners that we will onboard as we execute the strategy. The second example, let's talk plant shutdowns. It's a simple thing, but there's a lot happening that we are doing. I don't want to say wrong, but to less benefit to us. We have aspects of bringing in Botswana to come in, work for 3 months, and then they leave to do a shutdown. The person is there not working for another 6 months. Another operation gets them. So when you talk to decency of employment, that is on the wrong side of it. And then when you talk to the quality of work you are getting as an operation, that is the wrong side of it. When you talk to safety, that is the wrong side of it. That's why you see a lot of duplication happening in the operations immediately after a shutdown. Your uptime and upkeep is compromised by 8% just by looking at that quality. As Naledi, we are coming up with what we call a shutdown crew, where we have employees that are not working 2 months, 3 months. They don't work for another 3 months because they were not hired in another operation. We are then going to synchronize the shutdown. We have already made engagements with some of the operations. You synchronize them to a point where this crew can move around, probably also looking at some of the aspects that you get in other operations can be an improvement in other operations. That's where you go from people working for 2, 3 months to people having decent employment for 5 years or more. And then another key one around EPCM. I mentioned that we are really good at operations side of things. How well are we doing in terms of execution when it comes to processes that are before we operate? Are we building plans all the way from a design aspect? That is something that I can confirm we are not really doing much. If you look at Africa, market value of this is 100 million. And there are some things that in order for you to execute, you need partnerships. You had the conversations about partnerships. We have signed an MOU with DRA Global on this one, also availing some of the subsidiaries like Menopex and Senate, for us to be able to upskill ourselves to a level where we can now design plans, to a level where we can now scan plans and give you 3D models, not just drawings, which is something that we are just about to do in the coming weeks. I won't announce some things prematurely. And then the last one, where I'm going to give an example, because of time, I'm not going to walk across all of them. The last one where I'm going to give an example is Talent Bank. We have created a lot of capacity in terms of mining talent in the country. We are not moving it around globally. I'm glad there will be conversations around that because I see Kumo Nyenyua is here as well. There is really a great opportunity for us to export our talent. And we need to build frameworks for us to be able to do this. If we are saying we are going to create 100,000 jobs annually, they have to be decent jobs. And to create them locally will be a challenge. There is a market that is there, and we need to inbuild into this market. So we are launching, and we have already done this with our employees. We have given them the app, they've been using it for the past 6 months, where you get to understand. You know, the sad part is you hire someone because they used a lower qualification. And through this app, we are starting to discover that we have people that are highly qualified and underemployed just because of the unemployment issue that we have in this country. They decided, no, it's best for me to use this particular certificate instead of using my degree or master's. And we are starting to unearth all that information. The app will be available for the whole nation in the next month or so. We are just waiting to launch our website, which will also come in the next month as well. When you look at this, the song killed you. When you look at this, we are already, as Naledi, we are already losing employees to the Australian market. But the way that we are losing them, we are not in control of it. We need to go in this direction of creating this particular talent bank so that when Kumo wants to go to Mozambique, at least we can use what we call a second man model, so that when this particular nation requires Kumo to come back for any particular reason, then we can be able to negotiate for her return. Right now, we are losing talent that we trained in an uncontrollable manner. I'll give you an example. Naledi, we lost one of our best planners. He's called Kitso Boropa, just like that, to the Australian market, which is a good thing on its own. But we need to be in control of it, lest we find our best talent, all our best talent, out of this country, because then it will compromise us as a nation. So I won't go into further detail with the other key areas. Because strategy, we mentioned numbers. Well, when Naledi was launched, those numbers are there in the public. The plan was to generate a revenue of 350 million pula. This strategy is moving us into 1 billion pula in our third year of operation. And in the medium to long term, Naledi will be $1 billion company. Naledi will, okay, I'm gonna say this unapologetically. Naledi, in terms of mining, will be the highest employer in this country. We are going to create employment opportunities for Botswana, and currently that's where the focus is. In terms of moving into the international market, pizza I didn't get but keep your eyes on the news. Thank you. So, because of time, I'll just leave out the other slides, but the interesting thing is, I'm not too sure Elias is still here. He mentioned these 3 key areas. I felt at some point he had seen my presentation. For things to change, for us to learn from some of the crises that we have in this country, like the current one of the diamond volatility, we need to open access to Botswana. We have created a lot of artificial barriers for doing business in this country. As business leaders, we need to hold ourselves accountable to changing that. We need to be driven by policies. We are in the middle of a crisis. One of the first things we should have seen is a policy change that could drive us in a different direction, that could make us agile, and that could make us competitive in a global landscape. So maybe as industry leaders, that is the one takeaway we need to hold ourselves accountable to, rather than saying all the good things all the time. Thank you.